Remember when people used to say, you'll never use this information again outside of high school? Well, that was a lie. In this video, I want to discuss that topic real quick. I don't want it to be like a lecture. It's an open discussion. Sharing my experience in the adult life post high school since 2019, so for about 6 years here. I've been in the working world or the adult world for the last 6 years now. I want to give my experience on this topic, and that topic is learning is continuous. Let's begin. Now let me give you a quick timeline again. So like I said, I graduated back in 2019. I joined the Marine Corps in 2019 as well. Since 2019 and now I've been in the Marine Corps for the last 6 years. And that's the military ASVAB, which is the military test to get into the military, excuse me, retaking the ASVAB, higher education, retaking the ASVAB, cyber-related work, commissioning prep. I want to go into how learning has followed me every step of the way since I've graduated high school. I'll start with the Marine Corps. So, like I said, I graduated in 2019. I was 17. I enlisted when I was 17. I took the ASVAB back in high school, and I used that score to what I got on the ASVAB I took in high school. I used that to enlist into the military. So you enlist in the military, enlist in the military. That's boot camp. Now I have to learn and get indoctrinated in the military or the Marine Corps way of life. And then from boot camp, I go off to MOS school. MOS is essentially your job in the military, right? MOS is just think your job. So on the job train, or no, not on job training yet, more like job training. They're teaching you what you're going to be doing once you enter the fleet, once you enter into your working life. So I have some boot camp, MOS training. From MOS training, I'm now stationed somewhere, which is where I'll be living primarily, like the duration. I'll be living there primarily for the duration of my contract. And now I'm learning that area. Now I'm learning how to do my work or do my job for that unit, for that specific area. And most of the times it's going to be different from what you were taught in school, right? You could think of like MOS school is like getting your certification or going to college or school, and then you graduate, and now you have to practically apply what you've learned in a real world scenario, all right? And now now we're in the Marine Corps, and now I'm an ambitious young man, right? So I'm looking at other things that I can be doing, and a few things crossed my path. Commissioning into the Marine Corps was one of them, and later down the line, a few years later, a whole enlistment later, essentially cybersecurity training, essentially, right? Cyber work, cyber defense operator, essentially working in cybersecurity in the Marine Corps. But let's touch on the first one. Commissioning into the Marine Corps, I remember one of the requirements, well, the two main requirements was a rank. You need to be a sergeant. I wasn't a sergeant at the time, I was still a low rank. But the next main requirement was, I believe you needed an over a 70 for your ASVAB score. I did not have a 70. When I first took the ASVAB, I had a 53 ASVAB score. So early on in my career, the seed was planted that I may have to retake the ASVAB. Fast forward a few years, and I want to lateral move in the Marine Corps, right? Go from my current MOS to another one. And now, guess what the requirements were to lateral move? The requirements it's still a requirement. The requirement is I needed a 110 GT score, general technician score. But when I first took the ASVAB back in high school, my GT score was a 90. So back in high school, when I first took the ASVAB, my ASVAB score was 53 with a 90 GT score. So now this is the second time I've encountered a roadblock to which I want to go to the next level, but a roadblock was I needed to, I guess, study more, I needed more mental acuity, etc. Another thing as well that I also did when I was a lower enlisted, I pursued higher education. And here's one, I was online, of course, but here's one thing that stuck out the most like a common pattern I would see when I would take my classes. Most of the people that were my classmates, these were individuals in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. These are individuals who already had families, they already had jobs, careers they've been working at for years. And this is their words, right? I'm seeing what they're saying. They hit that glass ceiling at their current position. In order to break through that glass ceiling or to lateral move somewhere else into a better opportunity, they needed a degree. And pursuing higher education was something they put off for a while. But as they progressed along in their life or their career, their job, it became something again that, hey, you need to face this. It kind of reminds me of me in the Marine Corps and wanting to commission or lateral move. I put it off, but look, I kept facing it again. Hey, if you want to do better, be better, level up the next position, you have to face this. You need that ASVAB score. You need that GT score. Or for my classmates, hey, you need that degree. Or you want to change your career, you want to pivot, you need that. It was something not only I kept experiencing, not seeing, or like it's not only something I was experiencing firsthand, I saw it in other people as well. The common theme is learning is continuous. Two more subtopics I want to speak on as well. Software engineering / cybersecurity learning and commissioning prep. So while I was in the Marine Corps, I was certified in software development, as a full stack developer. Also, not certified yet, but I began learning cybersecurity to see if it's something I wanted to pursue long term. And here as well, because I said commissioning, right? Commissioning is to be an officer in the military. In the military, you have enlisted and commissioned. Enlisted, you join right out of high school. To commission, you need a bachelor's degree. So that's the difference right there. Officers, they have the shiny rank. For my civilians, it's just shiny. Enlisted, their ranks are black. You salute officers, you don't salute enlisted. I also took the OAR, which stands for Officer Aptitude Rating, which is essentially the officer's version of an ASVAB, because I wanted to qualify and see if I can qualify for work in this area or position. And I say all this to say this, right? Let me tie it all back together. Learning is continuous, and I'm not sure for you guys if you're saying you're watching my video on your phone and you're saying, of course, Mikhail, of course, it's obvious. You didn't know that? Are you stupid? You don't know learning is continuous? You're gonna have to learn for the rest of your life? I'm not sure if you're saying that, but it just kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It was surprising. I was surprised. I sat back and I reflected. It wasn't until I sat back and reflected, like, damn, learning is continuous. Oh, by the way, I did end up retaking the ASVAB, by the way. I retook the ASVAB. This is for another video, but I retook the ASVAB, got an 88 with a 115, so I qualify now, but yeah, let me start over. So after I reflected, I retook the ASVAB. I pursued higher education, I still am. I pursued outside learning outside of my entire career field. My career field is supply administration or adjacently financial management. And I stepped completely outside of that. Started pursuing software development, software engineering, cybersecurity. And then taking the initiative as well to look into commissioning into the military and taking the OAR. And it wasn't until I reflected, I was like, man, I'm learning. You never stop. The grind doesn't end. And for some reason, it felt like something that was, I'm not gonna say it's baffling. I was just shocked. It was almost like an epiphany. I was like, wow, it seems I'm going to have to learn and grind for the rest of my life. Not like it's a bad thing. It's more like it was eye-opening. Like, wow, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize that's what was expected. I didn't realize I should be doing that, Because sometimes you just want to be ambitious. You get lost in it. You get lost in the ambition. You're just doing. And then you stop and you reflect like, wow, the learning is continuous. I first had to learn this Started the lower enlisted, lower level. I learned higher education, studied to retake the ASVAB, studying material that's completely outside of my field, my line of career, studying material outside of my rank, outside of my jurisdiction. The learning is continuous, and as I was reflecting about it, it reminded me of I used to hear that saying a lot. I used to hear people say stuff about, "I'll never use this again. I'll never use this stuff again outside of high school." And let me tell you something real quick. So, like I said, some of the reasons why I retook the ASVAB was because to qualify for the cybersecurity MOS the Marine Corps has, and the commission in the Marine Corps. So, on the ASVAB, math is on the ASVAB. Geometry, shapes, triangle, or triangles. I was gonna say shapes. Triangles more like formulas. What's the area of a triangle, right? Base times half of base times height. So formulas, the volume of a sphere, general science information. What's photosynthesis? Or I don't think I pronounced that photosynthesis. Reading a paragraph comprehension, reading a paragraph and being able to summarize what you read and answering a series of questions accurately. Word knowledge, algebra, being able to solve for X, being able to do rapid multiplication and division. These are things we all learned in school, and I had to rely back on what I was taught. I had to rely back on what I was taught in high school to now apply back here. I did, of course, revisit information again. I did, of course, restudy the information when I came to taking the ASVAB. But for some reason, it was almost mind blowing to me to think, damn, what I was taught back in high school, I still need it. In fact, looking back, I wish I did more because I would have been better off now. Had I had put more focus in high school now, put more focus back in high school, I wouldn't have to retake the ASVAB now. Understand what I'm saying? For example, I was always a smart because like I said, in school, I was smart in school. I was a smart person, smart kid. I didn't apply myself as much, right? It reflected in the ASVAB. I'm the same person, but the first time I took the ASVAB, I got a 53 and a 90 GT score. We took the ASVAB back in March of 2025. I got an 88 ASVAB, a 115. I didn't apply myself as much. So now it's biting me 6 years later. Not applying myself back in high school where it mattered, it's biting me now 6 years later. But, I still had time. I retook it, but still, that could have been a hurdle I avoided, had I did it right the first time. And then look at this. Now we're talking about higher education, pursuing a degree, which is literally an extension of what you learned in high school. And then the OAR, which is the officer version of the ASVAB, which isn't just Algebra 1, right? ASVAB is things you've learned in high school. The OAR covers materials you'll learn, I guess, if you took advanced classes in high school, but more than likely in college. They're touching on topics that you will learn in college or at a four-year university. And so now what I had to do is not only rely on what I was taught in high school, but teach myself new information and be able to withhold the information long enough to take the OER and pass it with a qualifying score for the job I was looking for, which I was able to do. And doing all these things, man, I stopped and reflected. I was like, wow, what I was taught way back when, I'm still relying on it now. Math, science, English, writing, I'm still relying on it now. Even now, so like I'm in the adult world. I'm working, and I'm writing. I have pretty good handwriting, but sometimes I don't even notice until you look at your peers, and sometimes your peers, they're writing, and it's like it's chicken scratch. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like it's small things like this that makes me stop and reflect. Like, damn, what I was taught way back when. Who knew? Who knew it would have had such an impact years later on? Years later on, who would have known it would have had such an impact? Overall, That's just the message I want to give to you guys. And I was very cognizant when making this video. I did not want it to sound like a lecture, right? This isn't a lecture, right? I'm not perfect. I make plenty of mistakes. To this day, I make mistakes. I just wanted to share something I learned that I didn't fully realize, that I'm sure some of you guys can probably relate to. I'm looking at my watch. I got to hit the gym after this. See them shoulders? But yeah, I was just surprised. It just felt like, damn, I feel like no one told me this. Or maybe they did, but it didn't really click. You know, when your parents tell you education, important education is the key to succeed, it didn't really click. It didn't really click until 6 years later. I'm an adult. I have a career. I want to take my career to the next level. And I now have to rely on the same principles and core concepts and education that I was taught back in high school to prove that I had the mental acuity to take on the next level, to take on the increased responsibilities, to move, you know? So I'll say this, man. I'll say this, right? Learning is continuous. Learning is continuous. Speaking of which, I was in a Discord here recently. Because what I was going to say is, depending on where you are at in your life, whether you're watching me and you're still in school, you're about to graduate, or you've already graduated, you're now in the working world. But I was going to give an example. Here recently, I was in a Discord, and this young man, he was still in high school. I think he was a sophomore still, and he was saying he was taking AP classes, dual enrollment classes, and that's something I wish I did. That's something I wish I did. Because like I said, the learning is continuous, guys. And had I known some of this stuff when I was in high school, I wouldn't have settled for the average classes. I wouldn't have settled for the regular classes. I would have challenged myself. I would have taken those AP classes, those dual enrollment classes. Because so what some of these students are doing, they take these classes, right? And so they can graduate high school, some of them sometimes with an associate's degree, and or if they can't, they're that much closer. But let me not beat a dead horse. I'm sure I got the message across. Overall, what I want to say is the learning, it's continuous. The learning is continuous. It never ends. If you like these type of topics, or if you like this video, drop a like. Let me know what you liked about the video in the comment section down below, and subscribe for more content like this. I'll catch you in the next one.